5.2, deputation from Angela Rojas and Moya Kelly regarding sexually explicit books for children in our public libraries. If you'd like to come forward. So you also have 5 minutes to speak once you press your button on the right-hand side, and then any questions from the councillors can come at the conclusion of that one. So just press the right-hand side button and you're off.
I'm here this evening to speak about sexually explicit books for children in our public libraries. Our public libraries are part of the library's SA1 card system, which are run by local councils. Last Friday, I received an email from Abby Dixon, Acting CEO of Port Adelaide and Enfield Council, with a request to remove the sexually explicit imagery in handouts, as, quote, they may cause an offence to the people attending a public meeting, unquote. And, quote, I trust you understand my responsibilities for ensuring the meeting is a safe environment for everyone in attendance, unquote. For this reason, I have 2 handouts available, censored and uncensored versions. Please keep in mind that these books have target audiences for children and teens, although they may offend some parts of the adult community. With one library card, my children and I can borrow and return items at any public library across SA using a self-checkout system. Acceptable use policy for library customers for the use of internet, Wi-Fi and digital content resources, including ebook and digital magazines, terms of use, must not use or attempt to use the e-resources in a manner which is unlawful or is prohibited. This includes to gain access or to transmit, publish or communicate any material that is pornographic, obscene, defamatory, offensive, objectionable, abusive, indecent, sexist, racist, menacing or otherwise illegal. Across SA, on our one card catalogue, we have currently 334 items with the subject's category on sex instruction. Not all of these items available are sexually explicit. Some of these books focus on puberty and human reproduction and sexual health. But some of these books, including books for children and teens, have topics with detailed descriptions and depictions on adult themes such as fetishes, use of sex toys, how to do photographic sexting, and how to find pornography. One book described it as a sugary treat. This search subject does not include fictional stories and graphic novels with adult themes. We have some book examples. Authors and publishers decide on their target audiences and select subject categories through pre-publication metadata entry, cataloguing in publishing. They arrive already catalogued. According to the Public Libraries Association of South Australia, where children are involved, it is the right and responsibilities of their parent or caregiver to make those decisions on the child's behalf. I agree with this. However, there is a large number of publications held in our libraries that have not been classified by the Australian Classification Board and so do not have the correct consumer advice on the covers. A response letter I received April last year from the Inquiries Officer from the Classification Branch stated, quote, only submittable publications are required to be classified. It is the responsibility of a publications distributor to ensure they do not sell a submittable publication that is unclassified, unquote. Libraries are such distributors. Below is a definition of a submittable publication as defined in Section 5 of the Publications Classification Act. The next few sections are in relation to the South Australian Classification Act 1995. Sections 47, 51 and 52 describe the laws regarding the sales, distribution and display of Category 1 restricted and submittable publications, including the penalties associating for breaking these laws. Had we or do we currently hold in our collections submittable publications? Yes. This first book example, The Guide to Getting It On, has not been classified by the Australian Classification Board. One library has given this book an R18+ legal adult restriction. The second book example, graphic novel series, The Boys. As of 1st of June last year, volumes 1, 3 and 5 have been classified Category 1 restricted. The Boys Omnibus Volume 1, published in 2019, contains volumes 1 and 2, originally published in 2008. Omnibus Volume 2 contains volumes 3 and 4 and so forth. These books sit in the graphic novels area. Since mid to late last year, the 3 Category 1 restricted books have been removed from our public library catalogue after I wrote to the libraries that held these books in their collection and to the Ombudsman. Unlike videos and games, there is no classification categories for publications G, PG, and MA 15+. There's only unrestricted, legally restricted, and RC. If a child were to pick up a legally restricted video or game in the library, they cannot open it to preview it. Unlike books, once seen cannot be unseen. Teacher Gully Library offer child and student library cards which restrict children from under 15 borrowing certain videos and games. Would the Council consider adding a condition on how certain publications are accessed and displayed? A borrow by request for sexually explicit publications, with certain publications to be placed in a restricted area, and if minors wish to borrow them, must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. Will the Council conduct an audit of their library collections for submittable publications? If reasonable adults are offended by the contents of books, then how are they suitable for minors to see or read?
That's your time. Thank you very much, Angela.
Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Den Hartog.
Thank you for your deputation. You're on luck. I'm a board member of the SA Library, representing the local government association. I have a few questions, and from this position, I'm particularly interested in your deputation. Yeah. So, which library is your local library? May I ask?
I come from Playford, but I know Moya. She's asked me to speak on her behalf, and I've met many members of Port Adelaide and Enfield community who have concerns, parents and caregivers and grandparents.
Okay. When you go to your local library, you have a library card, I presume?
We have one library card per household.
Okay. Okay. Are you aware of if you get a library card that you are legally responsible for the choices you make and the books you take home with you?
Of course.
And if you get a library card for your child, that you as a parent are the responsible party in this?
So, thank you for your comment, Councillor. A question.
Thank you.
There is a $5,000 penalty for the display, sale and distribution of a Category 1 or submittable publication. And we've had publications in our libraries that were unclassified, that the boys on the bus, before the 1st of June, that book series was unclassified and unrestricted in the libraries for whatever period of time. And up until the 1st of June, then was classified through enforcement, as you can see on the screen clipping, through enforcement. 3 of those out of the 6 have came back Category 1 restricted. It's R-rated, it's pornographic, it needs to be wrapped and sealed. Well, that's just one example, sir.
I understand that, and I also understand there is a process in place to deal with classification. And in the meantime, while there is no classification, there is a process in place to restrict these titles to a certain extent. And I probably after the deputation, we can probably better refer to Dione, our library manager, for the detail of it. But I do have a follow-up question, and especially because there's a sign that says "Protect Our Children." I think cultural norms and religious beliefs and values play a significant role in shaping perception of explicit content. What may be considered acceptable in one culture, religion, or region may be viewed as explicit or inappropriate in another. My question to you is, so who is best positioned to decide what is explicit or not? The librarians, the classification board, or the parents or guardians?
Well, Your acting CEO, Abby Dixon, wrote to me asking
I'm not asking. I'm not
just
asking
saying,
that question.
as
I'm
far
asking
as
your
members
question.
of the council, the thing is, there are a lot of parents who are concerned about the explicitness, and to even be asked to remove sexually explicit imagery from books for children and teens because it may be offensive to the adult community who are in this chamber, or could be. These books have target audiences for children. There's many adults who find these books offensive.
But you would agree with me that it's your opinion that this is offensive, and that you not necessarily can hold your opinion as the rule.
No, it's more than, it's not just my opinion alone. There are many people in our adult communities, parents, caregivers and grandparents who are very concerned, who have seen some of the imagery. The book, The Amazing True Story of How Babies Are Made, that has a target audience for reception to Year 2. Last year was deleted from the Premier's Reading Challenge book list. But with the library policy, as a customer, I can go to any library in our, and I can go onto your computers in there or use the Wi-Fi using my own device, and it's against the law or prohibited for me to look up obscene, sexually explicit or pornographic material.
Well, that's why you sign an agreement with the library that you are responsible for your action.
But they can go to a library shop and pick up these pornographic books.
Again, the same point. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the deputations. I've got a questions with the facts or the data that you presented to us tonight. It would apply to all public libraries within South Australia. Is that correct?
That is correct. But I do know that some libraries have some flexibility around how certain library items are accessed and displayed. They can have some control. It does fall within the Libraries Act.
So it would not be your personal experience with our libraries, because you quoted before that you are a regular user at Playford Council Library.
Playford Council, yes, I'm a regular user at Playford, but last year and the year before I was a homeschooling parent, so I met other homeschooling families and we met at different libraries around.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No further questions. Thank you. You can head back to the gallery.
Thank you.
.2, Councillor Den Hartog.
Yeah, I'm happy to move the deputation, but I would like to seek the opportunity to ask the manager of libraries to provide us with a more technical answer than I could give on the requirements of like our responsibility as a local council, as well as the requirements library membership puts on the patron. Thank you.
Through the Mayor. I think library collections are complex living beasts, and we welcome the opportunity for community feedback in the development of those collections. So as a network, we have a set of guiding procedures about how to respond to items that may be challenged, for want of a better word, in collections. So for instance, at PAE, if a customer has a concern about a title, then it can come through to the staff and we'll make an assessment as librarians about that item. And the things that we might assess on is things like, is the person creating this item reputable? Are they a psychologist? Are they a doctor? Is this something that's self-published, or is this by a reputable publishing house? So that helps us understand the context. We then would use that information to help support our local knowledge of our community and what may be balancing a fundamental human right, regardless of age, to have access to information to help you understand the world or sexuality, with the requirement to balance these spaces so that they're healthy places and supportive of lots of different people. So some of the controls we might put into place, for instance, in PAE libraries, a lot of teen non-fiction is interfiled with adult non-fiction. So a lot of the books that may be questionable, we as librarians made a judgment on that text to say perhaps this is better placed sitting in the adult non-fiction. And unfortunately, with the very low loaning rates we have of our teen non-fiction, that seems to be a situation where many teens are not accessing our adult non-fiction textbooks in that space. But that's one example of how we sort of bring nuance into these situations. But we do have an overarching guideline that families and caregivers help their children choose appropriate books. And it's not just non-fiction books. There are fiction books that I've had conversations with my own family around what's appropriate, what does this mean, and also help them in guiding their choices. Now, a child of 12, 13 is very different to someone who may be 17 and needing to have information about things they've heard about in different places, and they need to understand what these things are. So there is nuance. I hope I've answered your question.
I'll come back to you, Councillor Den Hartog.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up question. You say that you take feedback from the community around certain titles. How often does that happen?
Through the Mayor, it's actually quite rarely. We have had feedback, but to be honest, I can't remember the last time that something was raised and brought to my attention. It doesn't mean it may not have happened, but it is not a critically, it's not a regular occurring process. But when it does, we welcome it. We make sure that we can then respond to concerns, and sometimes that might be about, this is not an appropriate text, we don't think it's authoritative. Other times it might be around maybe this is better placed in another collection. So these collections are constantly reviewed, providing councils have the resources to ensure they have librarians reviewing them.
Thank you.
Councillor Din.
Thank you. Thank you for your information. I've just got a quick questions. I know that you've been looking after our libraries for a long time. You're doing a good job. What you just stated to councillors is that you have hardly received any concerns in regards to the contents of these books. So I would say that you would probably, or us, would not receive any formal complaints in that regard at all?
Through the Mayor, as the library manager, I haven't received any formal complaints in the 7 years that I have been here.
Thank you.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. Before I knew that we had handouts in two different forms of, I went and picked up one of the copies of one of the books there. So I could better understand this and be informed into the discussion tonight. I know that the title, this is the Let's Talk About It book for those who are interested here. It does talk about it being a teens guide, so I'm interested in that. But I was also interested in the fact that the only library where I got it from had put a sticker on here which talked about, before you read, this book contains navigating relationships, sex, consent, key themes being sexuality, anatomy, friendship, relationships. And it says recommended for 16 plus or with a parent. The deputation tonight talked about another sticker or some sort of classification that had been put onto a book. I think that it was at one of the Playford libraries. Can you talk to how the libraries will put on stickers or do classifications, and whether they sort of mean anything if they're their own sorts of views, or just how that kind of framework for classifications works? Because understanding those responsibilities, I think, are quite vital for us.
Yes. So through the Mayor, yes, I think the book that was referred to, I actually It was Playford, and they had put in the catalogue record, so the record that says, you know, this is what this book's about and where it actually sits on the shelves, they had actually changed that to, I think, an R18 plus category, which is actually something that they probably should not do. That has to come from the classification board, and my understanding is at the time the staff that did it did not understand the full complexity and made that change in response to a complaint. So that's the first element. The second thing is, I'm sorry to talk in nuance again, but we do have the opportunity as professionals sitting within a community to make a judgment on more information. So that example there, they have put more information to provide contents to support caregivers and young people in what they select. So there's no rules to say we can't do those things. We also have nuance to say we think, for instance, City of PAE libraries, we might have a collection to help parents learn about different topics. So we may have put that children's picture book, the highly regarded picture book that's referred to for, you know, children from 0 to X, and we may put that like in a raising children collection to support families to talk to that with their children. So there is nuance and we're able to do that. But if it's classified, or if the Australian Classification Board says, for instance, like American Psycho, this is I can't actually remember offhand the classification, we actually have to state that classification and it's held off the floor. So there's quite clear rules around we have to do these things, and as a network we're informed through public library services of when things are classified and we respond accordingly, but then we also have the ability to have local nuance to respond to community need or feedback.
So I initially had one other question, but you said something there that I'd like to find a little bit more about there. I know that within our libraries we'll put on classes, sessions, particularly helpful for parents. You know, when I became a parent, I wanted to find out what was available down at my local library, and I think it's a very good thing that we do in that space. Do we use these books? Like, I think you mentioned one of them. Are they used by volunteers or staff who run these sessions to assist parents being able to answer tricky questions?
Through the mayor. I can't say that at PAE we have done that. I mean, we definitely use different books in different programs, but we haven't had a particular, like a sex education program that we then may bring a book forward in that space. We haven't been in that environment.
Sure. Okay. And my final question is, you talk about the network sharing information, and obviously through OneCard is a good networked system, and I imagine that all the library staff who interact within that are also quite networked. So when this reclassification or the response to the complaint about the boys happened, were there any consequences of that? Were any further actions or thoughts taken around how that episode could be used to learn and to maybe sort of reshape practice in libraries? Like, have we done? I mean, the question is that we have some sort of audit. Have we had any sort of contemplation of our catalogue to date?
Through the mayor, we recently, I'll use the word audit, reviewed. So it's a constant, continuous improvement and living thing, a collection. So the team recently reviewed graphic novels, because we know some of the graphic novels can be, can have explicit content. And so out of that review, those graphic novels are all kept in the adult section, but in a separate area. So that's one example of where, library staff are communicating and they're just aware of topics and what might be a content and how to best respond. So we definitely collaborate and share. But if there is a classification where, determination, that is absolutely shared and we have to respond, and we do, which is why those books that Angela referred to were pulled. So in that sense, the system's working. There was an issue, a book was classified, they were pulled. Or they could have been held aside and put into, covered, so you couldn't just borrow them. The other element to note is children can't just borrow something that's been classified as MA 15+. They're all in place at the moment.
Okay, that's really useful to know. Thanks.
Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Couple of questions. One, are members of the public able to submit a request to the classification board if they don't believe a book is correctly classified?
Through the Mayor, my understanding, yes, that's what Angela referred to, actually, I think, submitting a request for a classification herself. So, yes, they're absolutely able to.
To what was referred to a couple of times, and I would like clarification, are libraries classed as a distributor in that setting?
Through the Mayor, that's a really good question. Our interpretation is no. However, we would have to get legal advice, and the Libraries Board hasn't sought that. But the current standing belief is that we are not a distributor. Vendors and publishers are the ones distributing and selling stock. They are the ones that have to flag to public library services and to libraries. This has sexually explicit content, so that as soon as it comes sort of through the different channels, so there's lots of trigger points. So first of all, it comes onto a centralised purchasing list, and it will say in that sexually explicit content. Then in PAE libraries, when it comes in and the staff are actually unboxing the items and actually reviewing the entirety, not just page 25, but what is the value of this entire book or item, then they will also make a judgment call. Should it go into adults? Should it go into children's? Where should this item go? So there's a number of checks and balances.
Okay. Councillor Osborne asked a number of questions about the network, so that was good because that answered my questions, so thank you both. And then I suppose my other concern is the flip side of this, which is young adults not being able to access information on their own bodies that they may not be able to get elsewhere. And I'm actually more concerned in some ways that those who don't have an alternative route to safe, accurate advice may be restrained from doing that because of the way the system works currently. They wouldn't necessarily know where to find that. Is that, I don't know, I haven't got a question to that. I can't ask.
Councillor Mitchell, while your light's on, are you happy to second the motion?
Oh, is it not seconded?
No, not yet.
Absolutely.
Thank you. No further lights are on. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We now move on to the adjourned debate, 6.1, regarding the graffiti management policy.